This is Paul Storty. The date is Monday, July the 5th, 1982. I'm at the home of Mr. Ray McCarvell of Emerald, PEI. Mr. McCarvell is in his 79th year. He's a very quiet man, but knows a lot about the area of Emerald and the changes that have taken place over the years. Where did your family, do you know when the first McCarvells of your relatives came from Ireland?
The one sure thing, I'm not sure, again, whether my grandfather was born in Canada or born in Ireland. But anyway, they're sure Irish.
Yeah.
Now, as I said again, he may have been born in Canada, but I don't think so. I think he came right from Ireland.
Would you know where he came from? What part? Well, where did he settle at?
Freetown.
Freetown.
Yes.
You don't know his name?
Francis McCarvell.
Francis McCarvell. Oh. So,
But now, his father was Francis McCarvell too. My great-great-grandfather was Francis McCarvell. And it was him that likely came from Ireland. Likely. And the other Francis likely was born in Canada. But I don't know for sure.
you wouldn't happen to know who he married, would you? Francis?
My great-great-grandfather married a Nancy Maguire.
What name is Maguire? What is it, Irish or?
I think so, yeah.
It's Irish.
Nancy Maguire. And then his son, Francis again, married this Mary Rogers. She was English. Again, as I said, I don't know whether she was born in Canada. Wasn't born in Ireland. And then my father's name was Francis again too. It was like three Francis.
Oh.
My grandfather and my great-grandfather. And then my father. All three Francis.
So was anybody in your family named Francis?
Well, I'm Francis Raymond, that's all.
Oh. It's like a tradition to. Yeah. You don't know what occupation the first McCarvells when you came to Freetown?
Farming.
Yeah. That's what most of them did, yeah.
Farming.
Could you sort of describe your family tree, like sort of verbal? Like your grandmother was a Rogers.
Yes.
And then how many kids did they have?
If you count them up, there was Eliza and my father.
What, Francis?
Francis McCarvell, and his brother John McCarvell, and then was Mary Jane, and Agnes, and was Francis again. Her name was Francis.
Old girl.
Yeah. And then the youngest name was Margaret.
That's a big family.
Yeah.
And then your father's name was Francis. And who did he marry?
Bridget Johnson.
Bridget Johnson. Johnson's from around
Yes.
Florway?
From Middleton.
Middleton. Oh.
Yeah.
And then How many were in your family? How many brothers?
Oh, in my family, I have 4 brothers and 2 sisters. 7
Seven.
4 brothers and 2 sisters.
Could you give me the names? Do you have the names?
Yes, the oldest was Alphonsus,
Mm-hmm.
and next was Camilla, girl, and next was Wilbert, and Russell, Ella, Earl, and,
So the McCarvells usually had big families, did they?
yeah, 7.
And you didn't marry, did you?
No.
No, you didn't marry. Which one's married to Benedina?
Ella.
Ella.
Camilla was married to Leo McGuigan.
And are your other brothers married?
Russell was married, and Alphonsus was married.
Who were they married to?
Alphonsus was married to Margaret Dean.
Any relation to Bennett?
Would be Bennett's aunt.
Oh.
Bennett's aunt.
And then, did you say Wilbur McCarvell?
Yes, he wasn't married.
Well, there was a Wilbur McCarvell who used to live in Kincora. Is that the same one?
No.
No, it's not the same one.
This Wilbert McCarvell taught school out west, and then he came home and settled on a farm just across the road.
Oh.
But never was married.
He doesn't live there now? does
No,
he?
no, he did.
Oh.
No, he did for 7 years.
Oh. You don't have anything from Ireland that maybe your grandfather passed down to your father and anything like that? Heirlooms?
No.
No? Do you have any old pictures?
I had that until now.
You don't have a family tree, do you? A written family tree? No. But you have it. You should write it because you have it down. You should write one. You don't. Do you sing? Do you know any songs?
No, I'm no singer.
I'm not a singer. But you know any songs? Any older songs?
Oh, some part of songs.
Could you give me some names of some songs that you, maybe as you were growing up, that you liked?
Tipperary,
Or,
an Irish song. Oh, more, but I just can't.
Do you play any musical instruments? Or you don't? Could you, is this the house? When did you move in here? Or
My father moved in here when he got married.
Around when would that be? What year?
Oh, no. He must have moved much later. The time I could trace it back, probably now. Huh? Like 4 years ago.
Well, he didn't build this, did he? Did he build
Part
this?
of it.
Oh, which part did he build? Which?
Oh, this kitchen, bathroom, there, porch. Oh, we modeled the house and all. I don't know much what the house was like. He had to go over it all.
And he bought the farm.
Yeah.
The farm. Yeah. Do you still own the farm, or you still,
Yeah.
you still own it? And then his father lived in Freetown.
Right.
Where did they live in Freetown?
Well, they lived where, do you know where Rayburn McCarvell lives? Well,
Like, there's different parts, like upper and lower. And
well, they lived about I would say about 3/4 of a mile from Freetown Station. Yeah, this way. Towards them.
Did he build the house that he lived in, or was it there?
Oh,
Is it still standing?
yes, but it's been all remodeled over, changed.
So it'd be a pretty old house.
Yeah. Well, there's two houses out there. One Rayburn lives in, and then one that Charlie lives in. And that's my grandfather's house he lives in.
Oh.
But it's all changed. It's a new house. Made over. Good house.
Yeah.
Pretty good house.
Could you tell me? Did your grandfather, your father, ever tell any stories about when they were growing up, things that went on?
I don't know. They might have told some.
Could you remember any stories?
Well, no.
Well, what did you do when you were younger? Like, what did people do around here for entertainment?
Well, there was a good hall down here, dances and plays. Put on plays, put on a concert,
Would there be like one a year, or?
Oh, it could be a couple of years. Oh, off now and that, the dances would be.
So
Yeah.
what would they be? Dances be organized, or would a bunch of people just say we're going to have a dance? Let's
Oh no, the BIS would get up to dance.
Oh.
And in this hall, home of the BIS.
Is the hall still standing?
No.
It's not. Well, where was it? Where was the hall?
Well, it was quite near the potato house that Austin Trainer has. A little up from it, a piece, like nearer this way, but on the same side.
Same side. When was it torn down? Very long ago?
Oh, well, that's another thing, we take much stock of things going on like that. I mean, to say years go a little faster than you think, So, I don't know how many years.
But the BIS sort of petered out, did it?
Yeah.
But it was a big thing at one time, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's a BIS society.
Would it be the only one around here, like in this area?
Yes, in this area.
You must have seen a lot of changes in the village of Emerald, did you? Or in the area?
Well, I'm sure it did see a lot of changes.
Yeah. Well,
We had a blacksmith shop years back, and a carriage building shop, building carriages. And we had a cheese factory, and we had a post office, and we had a doctor, and a drugstore, and a bank, and a cheese factory, and a hotel.
holy cow.
Oh,
Is it the same Emerald?
There's none of them things there now.
Yeah.
No doctor, no blacksmith shop, no carriage builder.
There's not even a store.
Well, no, there's no store. There's 3 and 4 stores.
Well, when did it start declining? Like, when did it?
Oh, well, the doctor, there's been no doctor in there now for, it could be could be close to probably 50 years with the doctor. More.
Why did it grow to be so big like that and then just, well, it's big now, but it doesn't have all
Well, it
this-
was a junction, see?
Oh, the railroad.
Railroad junction. So it was a big station house there then.
Well, would the population be about as many as it is now, or more or less?
Well, I'd say it was more then. The families were bigger then.
Yeah. It seemed that everybody had bigger families.
Yeah.
And there'd be a lot more farmers right in Emerald.
Oh, yes. You see, this whole surrounding district was farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really changed till now. Yeah. What other? There was a BIS organization. Were there any other organizations around as you were growing up in Emerald? Or
Well, I couldn't say that well.
there was like youth groups or
No. It was a women's institute. That was when I was growing up.
like the CWL?
Well, no, it was different. CWL.
Well, were there any big events that went on in Emerald that you specifically remember, like that you take note of?
Oh, well, anything that I know, nothing important.
What?
Well, nothing very important.
Well, trying. Well, what kind of events went on that you best remember through the years in Emerald?
Well, there was this hall, as I said, there was dances in it often, and usually a concert probably twice a year anyway. Always a St. Patrick concert, and then other concerts as well. And at one couple of years ago, the fellow used to come and have moving pictures.
Really?
Yeah. In the hall.
That's something.
I remember that big moving picture.
Well, were there any? There was never a church in Emerald, was there?
No.
That's something that I wondered since there was.
Nearest church was Summerfield. There at the corner.
It seems strange since
Well,
those.
of course, it's not far, Summerfield's church. Well, I'd say about 2 miles and a half, probably. And then the church in Kincora, that took only, part of what you might call the Summerfield district.
But it seems strange because when Kincora got the church, I think Emerald must have been bigger than Kincora at the time.
It would be, yeah.
It just seems strange that Kincora
Well,
got it.
Well, then the clergyman then used to come from Indian River Church at the start, that church out here. Then later on, we got our own priest. See, later on. So, there wasn't much need of a church in here, but as I said, there were only about the furthest away would be only about 2 miles and a half. And on the other, on that other end, they'd go to Kincora.
Yeah, that's true. I never remember that. Well, could you tell me some things about the schools? Where were the school? Emerald School?
The Emerald School? Well, it's on the road. Do you know where Hughes live?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ronnie Hughes is living on the school grounds.
Oh, he lives in a trailer?
Yes, and the old school is still there yet.
Oh, yeah, they use it as a machine.
Well, yes, I use it for something else. Machine.
Is that where you went to school?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
About a mile from here.
Yeah, so that's not too far.
Mm.
You'd walk to school.
Oh, yeah. That's the day was very stormy or something. They'd take us to school with a horse and sleigh.
Well, would be many in the school? Would
Oh, yes, it was. 2-room school, you know.
So,
Yeah, 2-room school, 2 teachers.
can you remember some of the teachers that were there when you went?
And Mrs. John L. Sullivan, and Alice Reed, but she's married, got married away west. And then there was a Gabriel Rowe, but I don't know where he is. And there was and Adele Hughes. Well, she got married too and lived in Charlotte. She did too. And the first one of all I went to was Katie Traynor. She married a McKenna. They lived in Kelly's Cross. She married a McKenna after she left Emerald School. Married this McKenna. They lived in Kelly's Cross. Right, not very far from what was called Kelly's Cross Corner.
I've heard of Katie Traynor before. She was from Maplewood?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
From Maplewood.
Yeah, I've heard something.
Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah,
something.
from Maplewood.
She had red hair? Did she
Right,
have red hair?
she had. That's the first teacher I went to.
Oh.
But I went to her a very short time. She left very shortly after I started school, for I was very young then. Fine. Just forget how long I went to her, but not very long. As I said, it wasn't too long after I started school. She left.
Yeah. So, could you remember some students you went to school with, like in your grade?
Yes. I went with Cecil Smith, Carl Hughes, Charles McMahon, and Hilda Smith and Kathleen Smith. Lena Crockham. Oh, there's more I went to remember that I went to school, but I don't know my grading.
Do you ever remember an Ethel Duffy?
I went to school, I forgot to tell you about her. She taught in Emerald. She was my last teacher I went to.
She taught you?
Yes,
Oh.
last year I went to school. She taught me.
She's my great aunt.
Is that right?
Yeah. My grandmother was a Duffy.
Yeah.
Mrs. Sturdy. Mrs. Sturdy was a Duffy.
Well, Ethel Duffy was my last school teacher.
Really? Oh.
And I went about, she only taught in Emerald about 6 months, or more, probably. She came there sometime before Christmas. teachers that had been there before. One fellow was a clerk, and he got a job in the civil service. And then he got a Frank McCary to take his place. But he was only there a very short time. He enlisted and went to the war and was killed in the war. And then it was, I'm wrong again there. John Merritt taught school in Emerald from Breadalbyn. He took up after this McCary left, enlisted. This John Murray finished the year out. And after him came Gabriel Rowe. And after Gabriel Rowe came Alice Reed. And after Alice Reed came Ethel Duffy.
Oh.
So Ethel may have taught a year now.
Yeah. And she taught you?
She taught me, yeah.
What was she like as a teacher now?
Good teacher, yeah, good
You
teacher.
don't have to just say that because she's related.
No, she was a good teacher.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Was she strict?
Oh, yeah, reasonably strict.
Yeah. She lives in Halifax now.
Does she?
She's 89 years old. She'll be 89 she'll be 89 in August, I think.
Well, she went to be a nun.
Yeah, she was in the Sacred Heart Nuns.
Yes,
She was cloistered,
yes.
and she was in Vancouver for a long time.
That's what I knew, yes.
And she came home there in 78, I think. She came home to Halifax. They closed the convent.
Yes,
And she lives in Halifax in a new convent.
I see.
Yeah, I interviewed her too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, now
And she- next time I see her-
will you see her again?
Yeah, probably.
Well, you can tell her you interviewed Ray McCarvell. She was the last teacher I went to.
That's something.
No.
Yeah.
She went to school in Emerald to begin with. She got her education before, in the 10th grade. Before she went to college, she got it in Emerald.
Yeah. She said something about that.
Yes, she got it in Emerald.
Yeah.
Now, as the saying is, that was like I was I know I wouldn't be going to school anymore. She had been teaching for a good while before she taught in Emerald.
Yeah. And then she was teaching a good while before she joined the convent.
Well, yes, what do you mean? Yes.
She only celebrated her 50th Jubilee there not too long ago.
That's so.
So she must have been here 30 or so when she went in.
Yes, she's living. If she's living, she's around 97.
Oh, no, she's 89.
Right, 80.
Well, no, she'd be 88, I guess.
88.
Yeah, 88.
89 probably this fall.
Yeah.
Sometime, right. She has a first cousin, Benedict. She's a first cousin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, that's her age. She's around 88 for Bennett. Bennett often told me that him and Ethel was around the same age. And she went to school to Emerald from her uncle, William Dean, and her aunt, which was her aunt, was a Whalen. Yeah.
She talked. Well, I visited her twice. Well, I visited her lots of times, but I interviewed her twice, and she just told me where she went to, and she mentioned Emerald, but she never mentioned anything about it because she's so full of energy. She just keeps talking like And she had a stroke there in the spring, and she was half paralyzed. Now she's got everything back normal, except they won't let her walk without somebody there. So she says before she knows it, she's going to be out walking in the gardens again. She used to walk all around Halifax. She'd walk about 2 miles a day.
Oh, she was very clever. Yes, Ethel was very clever. She got a prize one time for some essays she wrote on it one time. That was previous to before she taught school in Emerald.
She never mentioned that.
Yes, she did. Something now, I just can't put any details about that. I don't know what it was on or anything like that.
Story. This is side 2 of tape 1 of my interview with Mr. Ray McCarvell. Date is Monday, July 5th, 1982. Mr. McCarvell answered some more questions from the questionnaire, as well as telling me some more stories about different events that happened over the years in the Emerald area, and some more stories about his family and friends. Tells me a lot of information about the church in Summerfield.
But they're related anyway. That, of course, not her. She ain't her, but her husband. I'm quite sure her husband is a nephew of Miss Alice Reed's.
Next, I see her now and then. Next time maybe I'll ask her.
And as I said, she taught school in Emerald for a year. Good teacher too.
Were teachers very scarce then?
Oh, well, I never know. I never had any trouble getting one.
Because it seems like anybody who was a teacher, they taught 1 year here, 1 year there. They didn't seem to stay.
Yes, do that. There's always been lots of applications in for it, and then the trustees choose who they thought they wanted, so.
Do your family or do you have any customs that maybe were handed down to you or that you believe or superstitions? Maybe something that your mother used to say or
Oh, I couldn't say that.
no? You do, or you just don't want to say it?
Oh, well, there'd be nothing. No, there wouldn't be anything. There'd be nothing.
Any little thing like...
No, I couldn't say that. Anything that we ever paid any attention to.
Yeah. Well, were there any family stories that were told to each other, like maybe what grandfather used to do for a laugh or stuff like that?
Well, I don't know. No,
You're smiling as if you know, but you don't want to say.
Well, no, nothing. I heard much, of course. I wouldn't hear as much as the older ones in the family, rather than the youngest. I'm the baby.
Oh.
5 years younger than my brother that's next to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can trace, on the McCarvell side, you can trace your family right back to your great-grandfather?
Yeah.
So what about on your mother's side? How far can you trace it back?
Well, now I remember my grandmother and grandfather quite well, but my grandmother had one sister. Her name was Catherine, and she was married, I think, to a McDonald and at Kelly's Cross. Near Kelly's Cross Corner.
Well, what was her maiden name? Your grandmother?
Grandmother, yeah. God, I McMurray.
McMurray. Oh. What was her first name?
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann. Any related? Where was she from?
Oh, well, she's real Irish. Whether she was born again in Canada or not, I don't know.
What was her husband's name?
Richard
Richard
Johnson.
Johnson. Oh.
Yeah, Richard Johnson married this Mary Ann McMurray. McMurray.
And you said your memory isn't that good? That's pretty good, I'd say. Some people can't even tell who their mother's maiden name was.
Well, my mother's maiden name was Bridget. And her mother, again, my grandmother, on her was Mary Ann. Mary Ann. And I'm quite sure the last is McMurray.
How do you know this? You just kept track, like, or did
Oh,
your
no,
father did that?
Just heard, brought up with that, heard of who she was. I know she had this sister Catherine, who was married to a McDonald.
So, I know I've been talking to other people and they say, well, nobody ever talked about it around home, like what my grandmother's maiden name. Did your father and mother talk about it?
Oh, well, I don't know. As far as my grandmother was concerned, well, she was often here in my time.
Oh.
Yes, and stayed here for weeks at a time.
Oh.
And she's not dead so awful long, I would say, probably. Let me see now. She's dead a little better than 50 years.
She must have been old when she died.
Oh, 90 or more.
So you have long lives, long longevity.
Well, yeah. My mother was in her 95th year. My father was only 72.
Oh.
He died with cancer. And my grandmother, his mother, was, as I said, was a Rogers. She was 85. But her husband, father's father, Francis, again, was only 74 when he died. Yeah,
So
74.
The women live older, live longer.
Yeah, 74. But it's on a tombstone in Freetown. That's something to see.
Where would they be buried? In
Summerfield.
That must be an old cemetery, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. Oh, yes. As I said, my father, that was his church going to when he was a kid, young child. So it's pretty old, all right. We built a new church here about in 1928.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yes, 1928, and built a house previous to that. Very short time before that. Then they built the church and got a permanent priest like it. And before that, the priest, as I said, had Indian River Parish and Summerfield Parish. And he was an old Father Gillis, was his name. Long back as I mind. There was another priest had been there before him, I think. Shashawn was his name. That's hear stuff from my parents.
Yeah.
Father Shashawn. This old Father Gus is the one who christened me. Oh, yes. Oh, my. Christened me, and it was there when I was confirmed. The bishop, he was a priest. Oh, for a good while after that. I was confirmed pretty young. I was confirmed as a 9-year-old. Pretty young, eh?
That was pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, I guess he was a priest here until I'd be about 17.
So that's
16 or 17.
Do you remember some of the other priests that were out here?
Yes, yes, I do remember them all. Since that, of course, after Father Gillis came, there came a Father Murphy. And he was only there, the house was just under construction then, the house. He lived in the vestry of the church. Him and this, to give you all information about that, is this Rowe down here in Emerald, where Rowe was his housekeeper. They both lived in the vestry.
Oh.
For a while, and then they got the house finished, he moved to the house. But anyway, he was here a very short time. He wasn't a well man. He took sick and he died. And after him came Father McQuaid. He did too. After Father McQuaid came Father Frank McDonald. He's dead too. After Father Frank came Father Eugene Murray. He's also dead. After Father Eugene Murray came Father Basil Crokin. He'd be a first cousin of Claire Crokin's down here.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, he was born on the farm just across from me.
Oh.
Yeah. But Father sold the farm and moved to Indian River. And he was reared, brought up to be a priest. And after Father Crokin died, Father Crokin, he's still living. After Father Crokin, well, he retired when he was out here, I think. He wasn't moved, he was retired.
Mm-hmm.
Came Father Dennis Gallant. And after Father Dennis Gallant came Father Vandervan that we got here now.
Oh, and it's the same priest.
Yeah.
Vandervan, that sounds...
That's Dutch.
Dutch, yeah.
Oh, yes, he's Dutch. Yeah. Well, he took over from after Father Dennis Gallant. Father Dennis Gallant was moved up west. Well, I think he finally belonged up there anyway. I just forget how long he was here, Father Dennis Gallant. I'll tell you, I wasn't here much of the time that Father Dennis Gallant was here. Well, I guess I was. Yes, I was here. I was away a lot of the time Father Eugene Murray was here. I worked in a Riverside hospital for almost 10 years. Yeah. That was during Father Eugene Murray's term. Father Eugene was here a long time. In fact, I wouldn't doubt if he wasn't here around 20 years. Father Eugene Murray. And after him, as I said, came Father Basil Crokin. And after Father Basil came Father Dennis Gallant. And then Father Vandervan, Dutch priest. So that's them all that was here in my time. It was for a couple of months or so between the time that after Father Murray or Father Murphy's death, or yes, Father Murphy, I told you it was him. Now I hope it was about a couple of months there was no one until Father McQuaid came, just a priest from town there. So, oh, it couldn't have been 2 months. I forget that part of exact. It mightn't have been that long. See.
You have a good memory of the priest.
So,
Are there any famous people in your family? People that you consider famous? Or they did something special that made them...
oh, I wouldn't say so. No, not in my family.
maybe somebody who was a relative that
Oh,
maybe
well.
your mother.
Oh, well,
had
my
talked
mother,
with.
my mother had first cousins. Father Lawyer Johnson, he was known to be what they call, he was Attorney General for the island for a while. And along with that, he was, well, he was what they call a criminal lawyer. He went away on big cases away in Ontario and across Nova Scotia, different places they had him. He was, I guess the like of him as a lawyer was never struck Prince Edward Island. He was a hard man. If he was against you, you were sure to lose, yeah. And if he was with you, if you were a murderer, I believe he'd any chance at all. He'd clear you out.
He must have been really good.
Oh, he was. Well, then he had another brother, a very famous lawyer, they claimed, was a smarter man than him, was a lawyer Richard, his brother. Well, then he had another brother, Father Johnson. I heard Father Johnson preach. He was a great preacher. But anymore, I heard him once. He came out to Freetown here. On one Sunday, I can remember it well, and he preached on the 7 Daughters of the Blessed Virgin. And he was full of music. Oh, well, the Johnsons were. Yeah, the Johnsons were. And after he'd preach on the sermon, then he'd sing a hymn at each door. Well, it was about 1 o'clock when we got home.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, he was clever. They were very clever. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Two hard lawyers. I mean, clever lawyers, extremely. Yeah, one lawyer know on this, but on the island here. Well, if you're up against him, too bad.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Lucky you were related to him.
And then I did hear them say that this lawyer Richard was just as good or better than he was, so I don't know. He was in the United States, moved in the United States. And then there was this Father Johnson, besides. I just saw him once, and I know he was a good singer, and he sure could preach all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, they were a very smart family. This Johnny was their father's name, Johnny Johnson. Yeah, their father's name was Johnny.
Where did they live?
Well, as far as I know, in Charlottetown. Well, in my time, where this Johnny really lived in his early life, but he lived in Charlottetown in late years, and this Father Johnson, he was brought up in Charlottetown, and lawyer Jim was his name, first name, lawyer Jim. I guess he was brought up in Charlottetown too. For me to just say that's something was kind of in my mind. Anyway, he was practiced in Charlottetown. That's where he practiced law, and his father was in Charlottetown in the late years. Mm-hmm. He was living at the time that the 105th Regiment was raised on the island, the 105th Battalion, where he was quite a strong Irishman. And he didn't approve very well of them going to fight for England.
I can imagine.
The only Irishman that I ever heard was down on England. Heard of a lot of Scotch that was down in England. For heavens, I have worked in the Riverside Hospital. I was a patient there, and his name was McDowell. And he was Scotch. And he ever quote history too. And he was given the English hellos, and of course I never let on to him those English in me. So I did tell him yes once it was English in me, and of course he was a patient, but not a bit foolish, you know. But there was one time I was home here for 2 days on my days off, and I had a big field of grain, about 24 acres to stoop. I got another fellow with me at this 2 days, and we got it stooped. Well, I didn't have to, when we finished stooping that day, I didn't have to go to work till the next day at 3 o'clock, my turn, my time off. But I thought that night I'd go right back and be in the same bed, and then I could lie and get up at whatever time I liked. I wouldn't have to be getting up early to go to town to work. And anyway, I was no sooner back till the phone rang. The lady, the woman of the house, came and told me I was wanted on the phone. Showed to me in the room. I was just ready to get into bed. And I thought probably somebody sick home here or dead, or you didn't know what to do. Well, it was the supervisor of the hospital. They had saw me coming back, see. They had no trouble to see me coming back. My car had passed the hut. So those about 4 had rang up that evening home, sick. Well, if you're home, sure, you didn't need a doctor's certificate like for 2 days. It took 2 days, but after that you need a doctor's certificate. So if I was home and I wasn't feeling good, I could call up, oh, I'm sick. Well, that was all there was to it. I'd go back probably the next day or whenever, for 2 or 3 days could have. But anyway, they were short. Those 4 rang up, couldn't come back, they were sick. Well, I knew I was back, and she rung me up. I went to the phone, and I told her I was pretty tired and been home working. Well, so she told me, but be sure to help. And of course, when you were on the property, you would have to go. See? So that was different. You were on the premises. And the rooming house was right on the premises. So she said she'd give me an easy ward. So I went home anyway. At supper time, this old fellow had been on a different ward. But there always had to be one from each ward, one of the attendants, go down with the patients, with them at supper to watch them.
Oh, yeah.
And there'd be 3 of us standing out there watching the dining room. Anyway, this old Mac fella, when he saw me, he always had such a great chat to me and thought a lot of me, He started on to England. And at the same time, I didn't care at the end with what he said about England or Ireland or Scotland or anything, but I was just in the mood of mad because I had to work. And along with that, I guess, had a lot to do with it. Not knowing I had to work, there was a fellow called me into his room just as I came back to the premise, to the boarding place, and gave me a big drink. And, I didn't like to have to go back to work with that in me either. But anyway, he started on the English. I just looked at him. I just called him the name. I says, my grandmother came right from England. She was English, came right from England. He just took one look at me. And just at that, one of my patients from the ward I was on got into some trouble at the table, and I had to run. And so when I came back, the other 2 fellows kind of were laughing. I says, Mac, I'll not think so much of you now, since you found out it was English. So I knew it too. Well, I thought to myself, the next day then I met him. There was a big long alleyway, an alleyway, going to work, and he'd always stop and have a great chat to me. The next day I met him after this. I said, hello, Mac. And he just said hello, and he kept on traveling. And I knew what was up. So happened in about 2 nights afterwards or so, I was moved out of the ward he was on. And I said to him, Mac, I says, I was wrong the other evening when I told you my grandmother came from England and she was English. I said, she came from England, but she was over half Scotch. Oh, that little bit won't hurt you. She was a damn bite.
Yeah.
She was English to the backbone.
Yeah.
Now, whether she came right from England as a kid or not, I don't know.
So you worked there too as well as farming?
Yes, I carried on some farming. I would have my days off and I'd come home here. Well, I put in grain and kept cattle. I would buy the cattle up and put them out in the pasture and sell them in the fall. Yeah.
So
Never kept any in the winter time, for I couldn't tend them in there. But I'd put in my grain, buy up the cattle, and put them in the field. Well, they'd be always trucked to me anyway, and trucked away. So I kept cattle and grew grain.
So when you finished school, what did you do? You started farming?
Yeah, stayed home here.
And then you farmed till, when did you start working at Riverside?
Well, I didn't start working at Riverside until after my mother died.
Oh.
She died 25 years ago last April past, 8th of April. And I went to work in Riverside about a year after that. And I worked there for 9 years and some months. Yeah.
And then you is that when you retired?
Well, no, then as I said, when I came back home and I started in farming, kept the cattle, kept them over winter too. And I quit that. I used to grow some oats and all, and then I quit that. Rent a little of the land out, keep some cattle pasture. Here, other folks' cattle pasture.
Is there any one grandfather whose tradition seems to be dominant? Or well, like, I guess sort of like the naming the boy Francis, I guess that's sort of a tradition.
Well, as I said, the only thing I do know of, seemed to be always a Francis. My great-grandfather was Francis, and then he had the son, my grandfather, Francis, and then he had my father, named Francis, and then
And your name.
I'm Francis Rain.
Yeah. So that is. Are there any stories that have come down to you about your parents or your grandparents or relatives? Any stories, like maybe something when they sat around the table, you'd tell a story about so and so, and wasn't it funny when?
Well, yeah, might have been a lot further on, but I cannot forget that part. Oh, I don't know really.
Are there certain things in your family tree that you'd like to know more about, but that you don't, like maybe where the McCarvells came from in Ireland?
Well, yes, I wouldn't mind knowing that, where they came from in Ireland.
That's what a lot of people want to know.
Yeah. Yes, I don't know that. Or I just don't know what part of England this Rogers came from, my grandmother on my father's side. Nor what part of Ireland the McCarvells came from, or what part of Ireland the Johnsons came from. As I said, my mother was a Johnson, but I don't know what part of Ireland her ancestors came from. All I know they were Irish, and the McCarvells were Irish. And then, as I said, my grandfather married Miss Rogers. She was English, And again, I'm not sure whether she was born in Canada or came from England. See, that's something I can't answer.
Your McCarvells, are they related to any McCarvells around here? Like,
They're related to the McCarvells in Freetown. Charlie McCarvell and Rayburn McCarvell.
oh, yeah. But not to,
Well, as I said, it's getting let down to like Adam and Eve.
oh,
They're related some. Wilbert McCarvell in Kincora was related some, but I just don't know how much now, whether third cousins or something.
yeah. But there is a link between.
But there's no one else that I know of that. There's this, there's the more